If somehow the shooter in Charlie Kirk's case is not the shooter,
listen to this.
I will come out and tell you that he's not the shooter. And I'm not in any means saying that he is or not. I'm just telling you what the investigation has proven, and I believe the investigation thus far, like any rational person would.
I believe the investigation so far. In other words, Brandon Tatum is telling you he 100% buys the government's official story that Tyler Robinson, with a 30-06, shot 140 yards away into the neck without somehow decapitating, and the bullet stopped with no spray behind him. And his man of steel skeletal structure stopped that bullet to the point where the operating surgeon who operated on Charlie Kirk found the bullet just beneath the skin. That Tyler took that screwdriver and he unscrewed. First of all, he took the screwdriver to take the gun apart, put it in a backpack that it didn't fit in, get up on top of this building, put the rifle back together, take the 140-yard shot with a 30-06. And then this magic bullet did some magical things, which a 30-06 wouldn't do. And then he took the same screwdriver and disassembled that same gun and stuck it back into the same backpack that it didn't fit in. And then got off the roof where the video pretty much shows that he didn't have a gun, jumped down, and then took that same screwdriver and assembled the gun again and wrapped it in a towel and then threw it into the woods and then went to Dairy Queen, 15 minutes away, and wrote his entire crime online and sent it to his boy/girlfriend to make it super easy for the FBI to incriminate him. That's the official story that Brandon Tatum is telling you to believe. This comes from the PBD podcast. This is 5 days after the October 7th attack. Listen to what Charlie Kirk says here.
And by the way, I'm actually very pro-Israel. So let me be very, so I'm not exactly.
Well, I think we all are.
No, I just want to make sure my position is clear here. But so Patrick, there are other explanations. It's possible that the Netanyahu government was double-crossed by bad agents.
We're talking about October 7th.
Okay? That's dark, but it's not as dark as what we're talking about. Okay? Another aspect is that Netanyahu might have traitors in his government, like legitimate traitors that have infiltrated. I was texting with some senior people in the IDF, and they said, Charlie, can't say too much, but let's just say the same problem you have with the left in America we have here in Israel. So there's something to think about. Just something to think about, right? Is that maybe there are some people within those intel agencies that aren't as sympathetic. Or maybe, Patrick, maybe, they might have gotten a tip, they might have gotten whispers, but no one thought it would be 1,200 Jews dead. That's a potential, right? Because here's the essence of it. The essence is this. This is the closest thing to the Holocaust that any of us have lived through. But the fact is now Bibi and the Israeli hard right government has a mandate. I got to be careful the way I say this. They're going to try to ethnically cleanse Gaza.
Yep.
I mean, I don't use that term lightly, okay? They're talking about basically removing 2.5 million people from there. Okay.
Israel is talking about ethnically cleansing Gaza.
They're going to try to ethnically cleanse Gaza.
Yep.
I mean, I don't use that term lightly, okay? They're talking about basically removing 2.5 million people from there.
We're talking about a genocide. And Charlie Kirk, at this time in his life, knowing what the plan is or thinking he knows what the plan for Israel is to ethnically cleanse Gaza, was still, quote, 100% a supporter of Israel.
You and I are both supporters of Israel and have defended Israel since the beginning of this conflict and spoken out about the anti-Semitism that has erupted on these college campuses many times.
They're going to try to ethnically cleanse Gaza.
Yep.
They're talking about basically removing 2.5 million people from there.
You and I are both supporters of Israel.
I think I have a bulletproof resume showing my defense of Israel, both on campus, on social media, to great, let's just say mockery and scorn at times because I believe it. Right? I believe in the scriptural land rights given to Israel. I believe in fulfillment of prophecy. And again, I'm not a theologian, but I'm a Christian. My life was changed in Israel. The spiritual energy is so amazing there. I want them to win. I've said that repeatedly.
They're talking about basically removing 2.5 million people from there.
That's not good. That's horrible. That's evil. That's being evil.
Okay? And
He's
honestly,
like, I got to be real careful about what I'm saying here.
they have a mandate to go seek justice and revenge. They do. This idea that they need to have a truce or a peace treaty, that's morally crap after you see women and children be burned alive and dragged to the streets.
So he is approving of this justification of what happened on October 7th and Israel's response to it as appropriate because people died, hostages were taken, brutality was widespread. But you got to listen to Charlie Kirk criticize Israel's official government story about October 7th.
I just have way too many questions that makes me think about what the motives are. And if we go dark, I'll put all those things out there.
Yeah.
How did these guys not know this was taking place?
So I've been to Israel many times. The whole country's a fortress. When I first heard this story, I still have the same gut instinct that I did initially. I find this very hard to believe. I've been to that Gaza border. You cannot go 10 feet without running into a 19-year-old with an AR-15 or an automatic machine gun that is an IDF soldier, right? The whole country is surveilled. And so let me just kind of go through this. We don't talk about Israeli politics very often, and most Americans don't know this. The last 9 months, Israel was on the brink of civil war. It's not an exaggeration. This judicial stuff, there were hundreds of thousands of Israelis taking to the streets because Bibi Netanyahu was basically redefining the Israeli constitution. That's not an exaggeration, right? He said the judicial branch has too much power. There were protests planned this week against Netanyahu, where they anticipated tens of thousands of people to take to the streets. Now,
this week means within the week of October 7th, because again, this live stream was released on October 12th, just 5 days after the October 7th event.
It's all gone, Patrick. Netanyahu now has an emergency government and a mandate to lead. I'm not willing to go so far that saying that Netanyahu knew or there was intelligence here, but I think some questions need to be asked.
He was questioning the official government story coming out of Israel about October 7th, but he was doing this back in 2023. The May 2025 letter, if it does come from Charlie Kirk, is about a year and a half later. So there's this raging debate on where Charlie Kirk actually stood with regard to Israel, and Candace Owens is of the mind that Charlie Kirk was done with Israel.
He had no choice but to abandon the pro-Israel cause outright, okay? Charlie was done. Charlie did not die pro-Israel. He did not die for Israel. He did not martyr himself as a friend of Israel. In fact, the friends of Israel were pressuring him. Why isn't Turning Point USA making any statements and shutting down this repeat attempt by Israel to lie and to pretend that towards the end, Charlie was just authoring love letters to Israel? I don't know how the executives over at Turning Point USA sleep at night. I'm going to challenge Turning Point USA executives to issue a very clean statement saying that I am lying if this is not true. About 48 hours before Charlie Kirk died, Charlie informed people at Turning Point, as well as Jewish donors and a rabbi, that he had no choice but to abandon the pro-Israel cause outright, okay? Charlie was done. Yeah, I'm putting the fire here right at the feet of Turning Point because I am disgusted. I am genuinely disgusted. I am looking around and wondering whether Charlie's entire life was the Truman Show.
So Candace Owens, on the one hand, wants to put to rest this idea that Charlie Kirk continued to be pro-Israel. And she asserts that Charlie was done with Israel and that Israel is lying about this letter to Netanyahu, that specifically Netanyahu is severely misrepresenting this letter, if not lying. Which really makes me wonder what's going on with regard to Candace's other close friend, Brandon Tatum, who calls out Candace without mentioning her name. Because Candace is pretty much the one who's been super vocal, who has a wide platform on the fact that Charlie Kirk was not pro-Israel, that he was done with Israel, and that Bibi Netanyahu and the Israeli government is lying. Listen to this.
Share this with all the people that was spreading information online saying that Charlie Kirk was turning against Israel. From what I read, and this is exactly what I would do if I had a relationship with Benjamin Netanyahu. And to be honest, I'm assuming that Charlie's team is still in communication with Israel on this matter. If not, then we need to do it. Somebody need to continue what Charlie Kirk is saying because it's important.
Just to be clear, Brandon Tatum is taking this letter as truly coming from Charlie Kirk and saying he would have written the same thing. He would have recommended the same thing, i.e., he would have recommended that Israel propagandize or launch a PR campaign or lie to the American people in order to psychologically operate on or influence the hearts and minds of Americans to turn them toward loving Israel. Make no mistake, that's what Brandon Tatum is saying.
I think it's very disingenuous for people to try to project that Charlie Kirk hated Israel. Nobody that was turning on Israel to the point that it got him killed, for you idiots out there saying that Israel did this.
Candace is saying that Israel might have done this. So he's saying, number one, she's disingenuous. Number two, that she's an idiot without saying her name. This is very interesting.
There's no.
And if they go back on this kind of stuff and they go back together without resolving this issue, that's definitely another indication that this is all a dog and pony show. It's a dog and pony show anyway, but there are layers of deception in the psychological operation, which Brandon Tatum is a part of it. And I believe Candace Owens is a part of it, although it's possible that Candace Owens may be breaking off and maybe seeing the light a little bit, even though she's been supporting the left versus right paradigm lie for a long time, which is incredibly destructive.
There's nothing in this letter that would suggest at any point, and we summarize the letter through ChatGPT because I didn't get the chance to read it all, but we summarize it. And no point that I've read and that I've seen and that we've seen, evaluated is Charlie Kirk turning on Israel. Charlie Kirk saying he don't want to be a part of Israel anymore. Charlie Kirk turning on Israel enough they want to kill him.
Now, I've seen criticisms by Charlie Kirk launched at Israel, but I'm on board with what he said right there. I haven't seen any indication, like Candace is asserting exists, that he was explicit that he was done with Israel, that he was not pro-Israel anymore. And the reason I say that is because the root of Charlie Kirk's belief and 100% support for Israel is in the Bible. He believes that the Jews are the chosen people. He believes that Israel is the sacred and holy land, and we should deploy all resources to protect and defend that.
There's nothing in this letter that would suggest that Bibi Netanyahu lied about the contents of the letter. For those who have said online that the letter was a refutation or a chastisement of Benjamin Netanyahu explaining that I don't no longer support you anymore, something ain't right with that. Either people lying or they got bad information. But when you come out...
Or the letter's a lie, or the letter doesn't actually come from Charlie Kirk, and when Charlie Kirk wrote that in May, he didn't really believe all these things that were written, or he did write it, and he was so in the tank for Benjamin Netanyahu and the Israeli people that he would actually write a letter itemizing, here's how you do it, and hey, my team is available to help you implement this propaganda campaign against Americans. That's why every American needs to see this video right here. Because if it's true that Charlie Kirk wrote this letter to Benjamin Netanyahu, that letter is filled with nothing but recommendations for evil against every single American. And even if he didn't write it, that's how Charlie lived his life, protecting and defending Israel.
And you put out there that Benjamin Netanyahu, the prime minister of one of our greatest allies, is a liar. You gotta, something gotta give. Somebody gotta explain this. When you say a world leader is a liar,
Brandon, is this really that hard to believe? Are you shocked to discover at this time in your life that world leaders are liars? That's all they do? They're just puppets for the banking and global elitists? You don't know that by now? The people who own the currencies of these nations are the ones who animate those political parasitic puppets.
And that he should be ashamed of himself and he's responsible for somebody's death, and you weren't accurate or you flat out lied, one of the two, you gotta come out and apologize, or at least set the record straight. If it comes out that this letter is fake and it didn't come from Charlie, I will come out and I will tell you, and I would apologize for whatever misinformation that was generated from what I am presenting to you right now. If somehow the shooter in Charlie Kirk's case is not the shooter,
listen to this.
I will come out and tell you that he's not the shooter. And I'm not in any means saying that he is or not. I'm just telling you what the investigation has proven, and I believe the investigation thus far, like any rational person would.
I believe the investigation so far. In other words, Brandon Tatum is telling you he 100% buys the government's official story that Tyler Robinson, with a 30-06, shot 140 yards away into the neck without somehow decapitating, and the bullet stopped with no spray behind him, and his man of steel skeletal structure stopped that bullet to the point where the operating surgeon who operated on Charlie Kirk found the bullet just beneath the skin. That Tyler took that screwdriver and he unscrewed. First of all, he took the screwdriver to take the gun apart, put it in a backpack that it didn't fit in, get up on top of this building, put the rifle back together, take the 140-yard shot with a 30-06, and then this magic bullet did some magical things which a 30-06 wouldn't do. And then he took the same screwdriver and disassembled that same gun and stuck it back into the same backpack that it didn't fit in, and then got off the roof where the video pretty much shows that he didn't have a gun, jumped down, and then took that same screwdriver and assembled the gun again and wrapped it in a towel and then threw it into the woods, and then went to Dairy Queen 15 minutes away and wrote his entire crime online and sent it to his boy/girlfriend to make it super easy for the FBI to incriminate him. That's the official story that Brandon Tatum is telling you to believe. And this is the official story that Candace Owens is questioning and doesn't believe. Brandon Tatum is talking about Candace Owens without mentioning her name. Candace, what are you going to do about this?
When there's overwhelming evidence.
That's why we call him Brandon Soften Him Up Tatum. Could this be a letter from Charlie Kirk? Yes. Could this be a letter from the CIA? Yes. It's possible that Charlie didn't write this letter, but, from every indication of what you know about Charlie and what he actually said in his public speaking engagements and how fervently he defended Israel, I would not doubt that a Charlie Kirk would write this. And Brandon Tatum and many others say, hey, we would have wrote the same letter because we want Israel to be seen with favor by our fellow Americans. It's just the best thing. That's placing America first, when actually it's placing Israel first so we can dump piles of money and munitions and military equipment so that Israel can be more beefed up militarily. Leave your thoughts about this for the world and the global thought police in the comment section below. This is a fascinating psychological operation. We got to stay on our toes, keep our heads on a swivel, and watch for the next thing that's coming next, because this is a huge psychological distraction, and those who can make you believe absurdities can also make you commit atrocities. I will see you in the next video.